Hi HCGers, HCG Berry Babe checking in. Not doing so well before today for the last few days on HCG. I'm not showing you my graph. I haven't shot off the top yet, but I'm up over where I started a few days ago, wiped out all the loss. But back on the wagon, not even actually first thing this morning, not until I got on and read some email and got some vlogs in and watched some vlog comments that so many of you are so poignant in the sharing that you're doing, and with themes being what the hell are we doing if we're not doing this right, and Joanne with her take time to smell the roses, and I don't want to have a major life catastrophe to make me stop and smell the roses. Every once in a while, like when it's a beautiful day or the trees are green or the colors, I try to take it into my soul and mark it, because in Michigan we get months and months of cold gray days, and I try to hold that colorful, serene, sublime feeling that I get from those pretty days, and that's about as close as I get to stop and smell the roses. My dad was what comes next kind of guy, and I've always been a what comes next kind of girl, but with the ADHD I can plan, but meticulously following through on those plans is hard for me. And I don't know where I'm going with this. I guess that I have health issues in my life, but just knowing that I had the health issue has never seemed to be enough to make me pay attention and control the food. It's been such an out of control phase of my life, my whole life, that this is probably the closest that I've ever been for the longest period of time, paying attention in a good way. So I'm not ready to give up yet, and today has been a sane day, so if I make it through tonight, I have a good shot at another good day tomorrow. But one of the things I want to talk about was something, and I'm sorry, but I've tried to figure out where I heard it, because it was one that I just watched recently, but I'm going back and doing the vlogs that I've missed. They were talking about how after their father died, they started eating, the whole family started eating. I eat for stress, I eat for celebration, I eat for boredom, I eat for memories. At this holiday we always did this, and this holiday we always do that, and when we get together we always do this. And so much of the time, all the time, it's food, 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 food. And it's very hard to mark those occasions without the special treats that have been they've been given power. When my mother died several years ago, her last request was that my sister buy gold crosses for all of the grandchildren, and my one daughter could care less, but the other daughter wears hers all the time and recently lost it and was devastated. So she's in the middle of negotiations with the other daughter to buy hers from her. She could buy any old cross, but this was a cross that was purchased with Grandma's funds at Grandma's request, and so it has meaning for her. She has invested this object with meaning. And I don't remember where I was going with that. But one of the things that I realized through the sharing about the eating after the death of the parent, my father's been dead 50 years. I was 10 and a half years old when he died. He died of leukemia. My baby sister was 2 weeks old. The doctors said he had no red blood left. That just kind of tells you the stock I come from. And in those days, women stayed in the hospital for several days after they had a baby. He was home from the hospital with my brother and I when my sister was born, and he brought my mother home from the hospital and was with us several days before he ended up going back to the hospital and then dying. And I bring that up because 50 years, I don't get melancholy over it very often anymore. You know, when I was younger, the younger I was, the more I would get hit with things that would cause me emotion. But I don't get much emotion around that anymore. But recently on my cable, Nat Geo, the National Geographic Channel, has run ads on a lot of the stations advertising JFK specials. Excuse me, there's been another Killing JFK movie, and there were, you know, videos that were missing, and the Warren Commission report and that sort of thing. Excuse me. And when I think about it, I've been having a hard time since I've been back on the HCG, and they've been promoting these shows for many of those days. And the connection that I didn't realize, what I think has been happening was I've been grief eating without realizing I'm doing it, because it's been a very vague, itchy kind of eat-me's that didn't seem to be related to anything that I could put my finger on. You know, a lot of times when you're bored, you know it. A lot of times if you've had a fight with somebody, you know it. But this was just a very kind of subliminal itchiness that I didn't know where it was coming from. My father became acutely ill for the first time that I was aware of on the day of Kennedy's funeral. We were home from school. The funeral procession was on television, and my father became violently ill and began throwing up blood. And an ambulance was called, and that was the beginning of the end. And so every year when they mark the anniversary of his passing, and then every decade, and now 50 years later, that slams me back. I've talked about how I have motor memory. That slams me back to that period of time in my life. Jackie was very stoic, as were her children during this time. They did not show any public grief. Little John saluting his dad as he drove by. Jackie was always composed, and so she was held up as such a paragon of womanhood in her time of grief. And so here was my poor mother. We were living, my whole, both extended families were in Michigan. My father had moved us to North Carolina, to Celanese, to take a job. No family down there. I was 10, my brother was 6, and my daughter was 2 weeks old, and she was a widow. And she says she kind of lost it. Because of the economic situation in the South, we were able to afford to have a woman live in. And I kind of took over mothering my sister, a lot of it, because the love that had been going to my dad, I redirected toward my sister and kind of parented her. And my mother said she kind of lost herself during that period of time. But the older I get, the more I think, oh, how amazing, and the more sorry I am that I wasn't able to share much with her about how I admired her. To think of even me at this age, if my husband were to die, what I would deal with. And to think of her at that young age with those young children. Fortunately, he was very anal, and financially she was okay. Not incredibly well, but okay. So there wasn't we didn't end up on welfare or having to live with my grandmother or anything like that. But my God, still. And so I think that unconsciously, because I'd see it and I'd say, I'm not feeling any kick from it, but I think I was. So now that I've acknowledged it, and they've been having the marathon this weekend, I'm hoping that topic will quiet down, and I can get on with living the rest of my life. I've been trying and working and getting my substitute teaching stuff together. Gee whiz, it's harder to get a substitute teaching job than it is to get a real job. I tell you, I had to have a because I'm going to be working with the severely disabled at the ISD. Not only did I have to get fingerprinted because it had been over 6 months, so they have to make sure I'm not a sex predator, ex-murderer. That was $60. Then I had to get a TB test. That was $25. So, and I had to run all the way over to the way other side of the county to drop it off today. So I'm just worried about once I start subbing, I have bathroom issues, and so am I going to be able to... I like to sub for the ISD because there's always a parapro in the room, even though the kids are more severe. Sometimes that's a good thing. But there's always somebody to tell you what to do. I kind of go in and am the third wheel instead of the boss. Whereas being in a room of 30 kids and I'm the only one and I'm supposed to do it somebody else's way, I don't have the patience. I didn't when I was young. That's why I didn't teach when I got my degree in the 70s. 30 kids was too many. So then when I went into special ed, I could handle 6 or 8 or even 15, but 30 in a room, guys, teaching's rough. Teaching's rough, and in our state, the governor who gets $1 a year, he's a Republican businessman, and his goal was vouchers, and he's pretty much decimated the public school system here in Michigan. And merit pay is not far off, where you won't get any credit for any of the extra education that you've had, or any of the years you've put in. It'll be strictly merit. And for me, having had a principal who just really hated me, obsessed over me, she hated me so much. That's not a good thing. To think of a teacher as an at-will employee and the principal having all the power, it's kind of scary. So now I'm rambling again, but that dissonance also is in my life. And the weather, God, today it snowed, it's dark and rainy and cold, and where is there to go but out to eat or shopping? You know, I've got a membership at the Y. Oh, HCG, I'm not really up to working out. So I was thinking maybe I should get off the HCG, so I went without a couple days when I was eating. But I started back on the pellets today, and I think that once I'm subbing, I'm going to be so tired when I get off that I'm hoping that the food isn't going to call me. So this has been just all over the place, and I'm sorry for that, but it is a vlog. So hopefully I have good news next time I get on here in terms of my graph and the line going down. So that's all for now. Bye-bye.